So, hello everyone. I am your host. So, without wasting any more time, let's move on to our topic and let's have a great discussion about, first of all, about VS Code, and slowly we will move on to our main programming language, that is Python. So, let's start. First of all, why we need VS Code for coding any program in Python? The main fact is that we have multiple VS Code, multiple code editors that we can use. I'm just showing you some of them. Like we have Spider IDE, this one. We have Spider IDE. It will just look like this thing. We have Spider IDE that is kind of used for coding of Python codes. We have Anaconda IDE also. But the main reason why we are using VS Code is because it's lightweight. Simply, it is kind of cross-platform. That is, we can use VS Code for Windows also. If any of my viewers have Mac, then it can be useful for them also. And even VS Code can be run in Linux also. So we have a greater scope for building or making any of the program to run in any operating system. That is the reason why we use VS Code for coding purpose. And moreover, VS Code supports multiple programming languages also, not only Python. It support a large collection of languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java, C, C++, C Sharp, Ruby, PHP, and many more. So let's start our video by, first of all, installation of VS Code, as many of the user doesn't know that thing, and we will be covering the whole video using VS Code also. So yeah, it's kind of important. So let's start. First of all, to install VS Code, just open any of your browser you need. I'm just opening Chrome in front of you. I'm just open a new tab and just search for VS Code. That's it. And the first link will automatically appear in front of you. Just click on that link. The installation is very much easy. It's not that much tough. And just click on download for Windows. And it will start downloading. In my case, I will not at all download this thing, as because it was already in my system. So I'm just closing this thing. But yeah, it's kind of a exe file. You have to download this file and the icon will appear like this. VS Code. So this one, VS Studio Code, Visual Studio Code, or you can say in short VS Code. You have to just open this thing. Just click on this and a startup page like this will open in front of you. In my case, the font was little bit bigger. Let's make it smaller. So here, it's our startup page. In this startup page, we will be not getting anything. It will be just looking like this one. Okay. So for starting our coding journey using VS Code, I want to make you first make a folder in this empty desktop. Okay. I'm just making a folder name Python live. Okay. And just right click on this thing and you will get an option open with code. Just click on this thing. So what exactly we did? We did nothing. We are just created a folder and we have opened VS Code inside that folder, as because without any folder for storing those files, we need somewhere, we need a specific place. That's the kind of our folder works like, and we are just open that folder inside our VS Code. That's it. Let me check this thing. Okay, everything is okay so far. So far it's totally good. Let me check, is the video there or not. Okay, so let's continue. I'm just checking that my video and the sound is clear or not. So it's all done. So let's start. So we have created a file, a folder, and inside that folder we have opened our VS Code. Now the next step that we have to do is just open a new tab and type here Python. Sorry, it's just Python, and I want to make you click the first link. Okay. Upon clicking the first link, you will get an option like it will be of 27 MB file. I'm just not downloading this thing. This one is also being downloaded in case of mine. So I will not download it, install it. So the main question appears here, why we are downloading this thing? As we all know, in case of programming language, we need some kind of compiler. What? Compiler. Without any compiler, who will compile the Python code? No one. Okay. I'm just showing this thing here. So the main fact is that we are just writing some code. Okay. We are just writing some code, and we are writing this code in VS Code editor. But VS Code editor is a kind of editing software where we can edit the code. We cannot actually compile the code in VS Code. VS Code doesn't have inbuilt compiler. So we have to connect VS Code with some kind of compiler who will compile the code for us. Okay. So in our case, we are using Python, and Python has some inbuilt compiler that was available in their website. I'm just making you install that compiler only. After you get installed, just for checking that the compiler was installed in your PC or not, just click on search and just type cmd and click on enter. The command prompt will open in front of you, and just type here python space double minus version and just click on enter. If this prompt came in case of you Python 3.11.4, I am just using 3.11.4. In your case it can be 3.13.7 something. I don't exactly know. Let me check. 13.1. Okay. So 3.13.1. In your case it will be 3.13.1. If this prompt has came in your case, then you are good to go. Python was totally installed in your system and you are ready for writing scripts in Python. After you got this thing, just let's get back to our code editor, and upon going in this code editor, you have to make a new file for Python in your case. Okay, sorry. Before making any file, let's talks about the extension that we need for make VS Code interact with the Python compiler. The name of the extension that you need is Python. You just have to type Python here and here. This one is the extension that was officially launched by Microsoft in VS Code. You have to install this thing. It will just look like this button, install, and after installation it will be like this. And if this thing was installed, then you are ready to go. You don't have to do anything. Your VS Code will automatically connect with the Python compiler and you are ready for writing the codes. Now let's go back. Let's just click on this Explorer option and just click on this thing, new file. Here you have to make a new file for Python. I am just giving the name main, and now after writing main you have to write the or type the extension that was normally used in case of Python, that is the Python extension. And in this case the extension for Python is .py. You have to add this thing and just click enter, and here you are ready. Your file was created successfully and you can write your code here and you can run this thing from here also. I will show you each and everything how to run and all the basics of Python. Let's first talk about a brief history of Python. So Python was a kind of programming language that was initially adopted by C and Java programming. It's a kind of lightweight and multi-purpose programming language that can be used in case of various fields like AI/ML, machine learning, and many more like game industry, photo editing, video editing, even in some case web development also. You can heard of this framework. This framework called Django. It's a kind of Python framework based that works on Python model, Python of programming language, and it was used for development of websites. So this is a kind of brief description of Python. Now the facts came that why we use this Python. What is the main feature of using Python? Why we are using this thing? The main feature is that it's a kind of lightweight software that can be run in any of the programming language and it's very secure like Java. Python, the codes that are written in case of Python cannot be kind of backtracked by hackers that much easily. It's a kind of encrypted and the syntax of the program is very much simplicity. Any user can write a small script or code in case of Python. So this is the kind of basic that I just shared with you. Now just move on to some technical or practical aspects of how to use Python. So first of all, let's talk about print function. The first thing when we want to write hello world, and just click on Ctrl S. Now the point is that we have written a program, we have written a code. Now how we can run that code? For running the code, just came to the left side of VS Code and just click on this play button. Here you can see it's also prompting run Python file. Just click on this thing and the terminal will open for you, and here it is. Here is our output for our first program. If you have done, I will just wait for 1 minute. I want to try this thing by yourself also. Just try this thing and make me inform in the comment section. Just try it. So I hope you have tried it, and if your output was as appropriate just like me, then congratulations, you have successfully executed your first program in your Python. So I hope you have understand this thing. This is our first program and this is the first function that we need to know in case of any programming language, how to print anything. So in this case we have done it. Now let's move on to variables. What are exactly variables in case of Python? So in case of Python we have mainly three variables that we use, that is int and float. Int, char and float. We have mainly three: int, char and float. There are multiple also other data types also, just like we have multiple also other data types also, like bool. I will explain you each and everything just in a minute. And another thing is double. But in this case, normally we don't use double. It's a kind of extended version of int. So we don't normally use double. We can use in some cases we use the bool data type. I will just explain you each and everything. Now just talk about integer data type. So integer data type are the kind of data types in Python that you stores only the integer values. It do not stores any decimal values or anything. It just store integer values. It stores integer values. Next is character, or we can say in simple word in Python's word char. Char, as the name suggested, character. It stores character values. Float are basically used for storing decimal values. Just like if you want to store 2.5 or 7.10 or 10.9 using Python, then you have to use float data type. And in case of bool, now in case of bool we have only two values, that is true or false. Bool stands for boolean. As we all know, in case of boolean we have 0 or 1. 0 stands for false and 1 stands for true. The same thing occurs in case of Python also. It only store two values, that is true or false. We can use these two values only. Now let's concentrate on variables. Now what are variables? Variables are basically a kind of a glass. A real life example can be a glass. Why we use glass? We use glass for storing water or storing anything. Variable are just like that. It's a kind of container in which we can store some values. We can store some character, we can store some float values, we can store some integer, or we can store some booleans. Now for initiating or initialization of variables, the syntax is very much simple. The syntax for initialization of any variables is name of the variable, name of the variable, then just click on equals to, and then the value. This is the basic syntax that we follow for initialization of any kind of variable. I am just showing you one of the example. For example, if we want to store a variable, it can be say any name, and the value inside that variable is 10. Then how we can do it? Let's try it. For the name, I am just typing val. Then as per the syntax, we have to give equals to, and then just our value. For example, in my case, 10.5. It's a float value. As we know, as I have already discussed, it's a float value. Now, a basic question came in your mind is that in case of C programming or C++, we have to mention the type of the variable just before the variable name. Why we are not mentioning this thing in Python? What is the main logic behind this? The logic hides behind the type of or the technique that was used by Python for initialization of the variable. In case of older programming languages like Java, C or C++, they are statically typed. For it, that is, we have to first initiate what kind of value we are storing, and then the programming language will store that thing for us. But in case of Python, it's dynamically typed. We don't have to tell Python what type of value we have to store. It will automatically detect that. That is why we are not actually mentioning any kind of data type name before the value. I will prove that thing, that how Python automatically detect that thing in just a few seconds. Now let's make another variable that can store integer value. For example, num. Just click on equals to and just click on 45. I am just creating another variable also that can store any character value. Now initializing a variable that can store character is a kind of different syntax. What is the difference? The difference is inputting the value. As per the previous syntax, we have to first give the name of the variable. I'm just giving text. Just click, give a space and click on equals to. And now the question, if we just simply write hello and just press save, just click on, I'm just clicking on run command, run Python file. I'm just executing this thing, and here you can see that it's saying name hello is not defined. We are getting an error. Now why we are getting this error? The reason behind getting this error is that Python is actually recognizing this hello word as another variable, and a variable cannot indicates another variable that is not actually defined. we doesn't define the hello here in the whole code, then that is why Python is raising the question. Hello is not defined. You have not defined hello. But in our case, the hello is not a variable. It's a kind of input that we want to store inside text. So to make Python convinced that this is a text and not a variable, we have to just enclose this hello with a invited comma. Now we are good to go, and Python knows that this is a kind of input that the user is giving me. Now just let's click on save and just run the same code. And see, it's done. Python is now not raising any error. That means Python has understand that this is a kind of data type and the data type is character. Now, without wasting any time, I'm just proving this thing, that dynamically typed concept in front of you. For proving this thing, I'm just using a small function, that is type function. You can see this thing, the main use of type function in Chrome also. Type function in Python. So here, type function is mostly used for debugging purpose. Two different type of argument can be passed to type function. Single and three argument. If type function is passed, that it returns. Here the main line is, if a single argument type object is passed, it returns the type of the given object. That means if we give a single argument to the type function, it will return the type of the object that was written inside type function. You can see this example also. In this code, a variable of x is equals to 10, as I have said it's a integer variable. It was storing the user was storing a variable name x with a value 10. And in the next step, the user was printing the type of x. That means the user want to know the type of the variable that he was using. And let's see the output. As you can see, it's saying class int. That means Python is saying that the value that you have given to me is a integer value. So I hope you have understand what is the type function, basics of type function. Now let's just implement this thing in our code. I am just want to see the type of all these three variables. For that, just I'm just entering print, then type, and then val. Done. Next, print type, and then num. And the last one is print type and then text. So these are the three commands that I am using for checking the type of all these three variables that I have declared just in few minutes back. Now just run this thing. I'm just commenting out this thing. Okay, let take this thing among and just click on type. Wait a minute, I'm just clear this thing first of all. Okay, now just click on type, run, and here you can see Python has returned us the type of the variable that we have just declared. The first command is of the type value. That means we want to know the type of the variable val data type, val variable, and here you can see it was said that float. Let's check this thing. Is it float? The value that was given is 10.5. Yes, of course, it's a float value. That means the statement that I have just said to you, that is Python is dynamically typed, is totally correct. Python is automatically detecting the type of variable that we are storing inside it. So this is what dynamically typed language is. And this is the function that we uses for checking the type of variable that the variable is storing in it. Now let's I want to show you another thing also before entering operators. I will the next topic will be operator. Before that, I want to give you some tips also, tricks also. Here in this case, as you can see, I have written the same statement 3 times. Okay, but this can be written in a single time also. How? Let's see. In this case, what we are writing, we are actually printing the type of val data type, the type of num data type, and the type of text data type. This can be done in a single print also. We don't have to type 3 times the same statement. How? Just write print. I'm just removing all this thing. Just write print, then give the bracket, then type val as the previous one. Now just give a comma and then type num and then comma and then type text and just click on save. Now just run this thing. You can see the same command, the same output I am getting. This is a kind of trick for shortening the length of your code. It will increase the readability, nothing else. This thing also correct, and if you are writing this separately, then also that was correct. But as per readability, it's a kind of much more readable. That's it. Now just let's talk about initialization of values in a variable. Now how to initialize the variable I have just already shown you. Now for example, if we want to initialize multiple variables together, then how we can do that thing? For initializing multiple variables together, there is a way in Python that we can use. The syntax for that is very much simple. I am just writing the syntax. It is val1 comma val2 equals to value 1 comma value 2. So this is the kind of syntax that we have to follow for initiating multiple variables in a same line. It's also a kind of part of code readability only. It increases the readability of your code. I am just explaining this thing practically by initializing the same thing. Okay, I am just combining these two statements that was written separately, and I will initialize val and num in the same statement in a single line. Let's see how. Just click on val, just type the name of the first variable. I have typed it. Name of the second variable, that is num, space, then equals to, then 10.5. The value of the first variable, that will be 10.5, that in case of val, and as the next variable name is num, then we have to give comma and we have to enter the next value, and as per my remember, it's kind of 45, and just click on save. And let's run this thing also. If this command was true, then it will run. This statement will run, and if this line was incorrect, then Python will raise an error. Let's see what Python does. Just click on and run. Sorry, it will be num, not name. It's my mistake, my bad. And here, yes, we have got the output, and the output was totally as expected. That means the statement was totally running. So this is how we can actually I'm just cutting this thing here and just pasting this here. Don't worry, all this code that I will be doing, I will be pasting this all these things in the description after this live will be get over. You can download all these codes from the GitHub link that I will be providing you from there, and you can use this thing for later words also. Okay, so the next thing that we will be discussing about is operators. Operators. Now in case of Python, we have multiple operators that are present, like arithmetic operators, logical operators, membership operators, comparison operator, or you can say relational operator also, bitwise operator also. So let's talk about first the arithmetic operators. In case of arithmetic operators, we have plus, minus, into, divide, percentage, exponent, and float division. Let's try all this thing one by one. I am just for this thing I am just taking two variables a and b and will be performing all the tasks here only, 10 and 20. Okay, cool. Now let's perform all the tasks one by one. First will be print a comma b, a plus b, then print a minus b. I'm just I'm just implementing the subtraction operator. The next operator is implication, or in simple word we can say multiplication. The next one is division, then modulus. What this modulus will give I will discuss in a few seconds only. First of all, let's type the codes, exponent, and last of all it's a float division, all this thing. So the modulus that was given, it will be returning you the remainder of the division. Okay, the float division is for power, that is 2 to the power 2. This thing can be done using Python by using the arithmetic operator, or we can say exponent operator. The next one is the float division. It's a kind of very unique division technique that was used in Python. It only returns the decimal. It will only return the integer part and not the decimal part of the division. It only returns the integer part, and this will be the normal division. This is multiplication plus an addition. Let's run this thing all together. I will be entering. Oh, okay. Okay, we have got an error. Okay, I got it. As I have make this the initialization a little bit lower, so it's raising an error. No worries, I am just copying this thing, just pasting this thing here. and I think it will be fixed. Yes, it's done. It's done. So let's explain this thing all together to you. First of all, the addition. I don't have to explain this thing how this addition works. Just add the number. Then subtraction, you know that how subtraction works. Then the multiplication, it just multiply 120 and it will be 2000 as we all know. Then 100 and division, that is 100 divided by 20, and that will be 5.0. That's good. Now the next one is remainder. Now in case of this one is 0, as because if we are dividing this 100 by 20, then it is kind of totally divisible, so the remainder is 0. That's it. The next one is the power. Now in this case we are having A double into B. That means it will be like 100 to the power 20. It will be read like 100 to the power 20, where the power will be the 20, 100 to the power 20, and A is basically the digit on which the power should be applied. Here in our case that is 100, and 20 is basically the number of time 100 will be multiplied with it. Got it? The next thing is float division. Now in case of float division, I just want to explain this thing only with you. In case of float division, it is also 5. And in case of normal division, is 5.0. What is the main difference? The difference is kind of after the decimal point. In normal division, Python is including 0.0 with it. That is, it is using the float data type. But in case of float division, it was not including the point section. It's only returning the integer value. It can be much more clear if I give some kind of number that is not properly divisible. Like let's say this thing, 50 divided by 20, and in this case 50 float division 20. Now just run this thing. Let's see what will be the, here you can see. Now in this case 50 divided by 20 is not really divisible, and to make it divisible we have to add a 0.5 or a decimal point. That normal division I did. Cool. But in case of float division it's only returning 2. Why? The fact is that in case of float division the main funda is that it will remove the decimal part from the digit. In our case the decimal part was 0.5. So it is actually removing the 0.5 section from the overall output. That's it about arithmetic operators. Now let's move on to other operators also, like comparison operator, or you can say relational operator. There are mainly 6 relational operator available. That is greater than, less than, greater than equals to, less than equals to, equals to, not equals to. I will be explaining all these things together with you. Just let me type all these things first. Here it's done. So the first statement is saying that A greater than B. It is actually used for, mainly comparison operator are used for comparing the two variables that are given as an input. That is whether the first input is bigger or whether the second input is bigger, whether the first input and second inputs are equal, whether the first input and the second input is not equal. All these things, that is comparison. Comparing the first variable with the second variable are done using relational operators as I have shown in front of you. These are the things. I am just running this thing and you can get a basic idea of this operator. I will not waste my time explaining this basic operators things. I think you know these things. You can take a screenshot and read about all these things, or else I am just explaining in short only. The first statement is saying a greater than b. It will check whether the first variable a is greater than b or not. In our case, the value in a is 100 and the b is 20, so it will be totally true. And in our case, we are returning also true. That's good. That's cool. The next thing is a less than b. In this case, it will be false. A greater than equals to b. Now in case of a greater than equals to b and a greater than b, there is a difference, a little difference. What is the difference? The difference is that in case of a greater than b, it will be returning true, and in case of a greater than equals to b, it will also return true. But the difference we can notice if we have, for example, just for example, we have two set of list in case of Python, and we want to take out the list of numbers or the digits from list B, where each and every elements are greater than or equal to the digit of A. Now in case of this, if we have, for example, two lists, for example, we have two lists, that is A equals to 1, 2, 3, and in case of B we have 1, 2, 3, comma 0. Got it? Now in this case, if we are actually traversing each and every element, okay, for example, let's don't take a list in case of A, let's take a single digit. And now if we traverse traverse this list B and access each and every element inside this B and compare this thing with A, as per our command, it was saying that whenever the each and every steps where the value of A is greater than or equals to B, we have to print that thing. Now in this case, the value of A is greater than B in case of 0. So 0 will be printed. And the next item that will be printed is 1. Now your question may arise in your mind. Why 1 is get printed? The logic is that the statement was greater than equals to. That means it will search for every greater element than A, and even it will include the element that is kind of equals to A. Now in this case that was missing. In this case, if we run the same logic, then only 0 will be printed and not 1, as because equals to is not included. The same thing, the same logic goes with less than equals to also. The next command is equals to equals to. It will check that whether the two value are equal or not, and not equals to, it will check that whether the two value is not equal or not. Got it? And now logical operators. In case of Python, we have mainly three logical operators: and, or, and not. First, let's implement about and. Let's implement this thing true and true. Okay. For this thing, we just want to recall the truth table of AND. Let's take a look about the truth table of AND. Let's take the truth table of AND out. Truth table Python. Okay, here it is. The truth table for AND is that if the both of the inputs are true, then only it will return true, or else in all other cases it will be false. Now let's implement this thing here. In the statement I have just written true and true. That means I am entering that both of the input as true. And let's write another where I will be writing true and false and just saving this thing. I'm just running this thing. Wait a minute, I'm just commenting out this part, or else it will be very much confusing for all of us. Now just run this thing, and you can see that the statement where we have written true and true, it's prompting true. That's true. And the next thing is that when we are writing true and false, that means one input is true and the next input is false, then AND gate was totally working and it's prompting false. So this is how logical operators work in case of Python. I just want to make you try OR and NOT gate also. It's very much similar to like that. We have to just recall or see the truth table from the browser or from Google it, and you can implement this thing also. Now let's move on to our next topic, that is operator precedence. In case of each and every programming language has their own operator precedence. That is how one after another the programming language will process the operators. In case of Python we have also a same kind of operator precedence. Let's talk about that. For remembering the operator precedence in case of Python, I am just sharing with you a small trick or a word, that is PEMDAS, where P stand for parenthesis, M stands for multiplication, sorry, not M, E. E stands for multiplication, M stands for multiplication, D stands for division, A stands for addition, and A stands for subtraction. This is the operator precedence that was followed by Python, where the parenthesis will be first calculated. The next that will be calculated is the exponent. After that, multiplication, then division, then addition, and then multiplication. Now the question may arise in your mind, that is where we need this operator precedence, why we are learning about this thing. When an expression contains more than one operator, the order of the evaluation depends on the order of the operation. The main thing is that if we have an expression like this, for example, parenthesis 2 plus 3 into 7, then again divided by 2 and into 5. Let's take an example like this. Then how Python will operate this kind of expressions? We will need a set of rules or a kind of priority list where it is clearly indicated which operator will have the greater priority or which operator will have the least priority, or else the compiler will crash while doing all the operations in a random haphazard manner, and the net result will be incorrect or inefficient. That is the reason why we need this operator precedence concept. It's just a theoretical concept. Now just move on to operations, move on to the topic of strings. Let's talk about what is strings and what are the some basic operations or the kind of operations that we can do using strings in Python. So what are actually strings? Strings are nothing but collection of characters. As I have said in earlier also, char data type was used for storing that or implementation of string. Now there are multiple options or multiple way for initialization of a string in Python. There are mainly three types of steps, three types of three ways. What are the three way? First one is single line string that can be written like this: str equals to invited comma, double invited comma, and hello. The next type of implementation or initialization is str2 equals to single invited comma and then hello. We can use single invited comma also. And the third option is we can use three invited commas also. 3 comma apostrophe, and inside the 3 apostrophe we can use hello. These are the three ways that we can use for initialization of string in Python. Now, why we are actually learning about string manipulations? Why we are using string manipulations? String manipulations are not that much useful for normal conditional statementing, but it's very much useful in case of kind of works where matching of passwords or patterns are kind of concerned. Why? As because in case of pattern matching or password matching, the password that was entered using an input field in Python was checked string or character by character with the already declared list or the number of lists. So in that case, in that use cases, string manipulations is kind of useful. Now there are multiple functions, basic functions that we can done using strings. The first one is concatenation. Concatenation. What is the main meaning of concatenation? It's basically, in simple words, combining two strings together. For example, let's try it. First, let's initiate a string that is hello, and the next string world, and I just want to combine all these two strings together and print the a single letter hello world. How I will do that? I will just simply use concatenation symbol and it's just the same like plus symbol. That's it. How? Let's write print, then str1, then plus, then str2. That's it. Just let try this thing. Try up. Here you can see it's a hello world. This is the first basic command or function. The next one is kind of slicing. Slicing, it's a kind of very interesting or fascinating feature of string manipulation. I will be just trying to make you understand this thing directly by a practical situation. Let's just first initiate a string, that is for example ch, okay, and inside ch I am just writing Python. Got it? And I am just printing ch of 2. And saving it. I'm just commenting out this thing and just run this thing, just running this thing. For your convenience, I'm just commenting all these things out for better understandings. Okay. By the way, the shortcut that I was using, you can kind of being surprised at how fast I am commenting out all this thing. This can be totally done due to VS Code. The shortcut comment out, and in your keyboard just enter Control K C, these three button together, and it will be instantly comment out, as you can see. And for opening that comment, you have to type the same thing, Control K and C. And it will be comment or out of the comment as soon. So let's back to our code. Let's run this code, and you can see it's only returning T. What? But how? What exactly was done? What exactly we did? Why it was only returning T from that whole Python word? Here it where slicing comes into play. String slicing, as the name suggests, is a process of breaking down a string by giving that text out from the whole string. This was the index number that we are actually using. Now in case of this, the question may come into your mind that from in which direction this index number was calculated. The answer is from left to right. Always it will count the index number from the left side of the string to the right side, towards right side, and the index will start from 0 counting and it will goes on to infinity until or the last point that was given in this case. In this case it will be 2, so the counting will start from 0 and end at 2. Now in our case, let's try this thing. So in this case, Python, in the word Python, we will start from the left side. P will be at index 0, Y will be at index 1, and T will be at index 2, and bingo, we have found the index as per our inputted or given index number. That is why it was returning T only. I hope you have understand this thing. I will highly suggest you just try this thing multiple times. The next one is range slicing. You can say it's a kind of sub part of slicing only. Range slicing. Now, how this range slicing works? Range slicing is very much similar in just like slicing, but in case of range slicing, we are just giving a range to our given string. That is, for example, I'm just showing you. For example, let's type here Python. Okay, just type here Python, and now from index 1 to index 1, 2, 3, 4, index 4. This will be index 1 and this will be index 4. So my requirement is that I want to get all the elements or all the letters from index 1 to index 4. Now this cannot be just simply done by using only slice option. In this case we will need range slicing, where we can enter the range so that we can get the string exactly between the range 1 and 4. The same thing was occurring here also. In this case, I am just writing an prompt where I am just instructing Python to return me the amount of text or amount of character that was present between index 0 and index 3. Now in case of range slicing, the syntax was like this: ch, then 0, index 0, and end at index 3, that is t, and it was returning pyt from the whole sentence. So I hope you have got understand this thing. And today's last part, or the last but not the least, last section that I want to cover, that is the another last final function, that is membership. Membership. It was also a kind of you can say a function in string manipulation. Now, where this membership, in case of membership, the main operator that was used is in. In case of list slicing, in and not in. So not in we normally don't use in case of string manipulation, but then also as per membership operator we have two operators, in and not in. It's the same concept. You can say membership operator or you can say membership. The thing works totally same. Now in case of the string manipulation, how we can implement membership operator or membership? For example, I'm just explaining this thing here also only. For example, as I have said, the thing is gone. Here it is. So I'm just again back to the word, just removing these things and just writing the word Python again. Wait. Just okay, done. So now in this word, my requirement is that I want to check a letter E, and I want to see that is this E was present inside this letter Python or not. Now for checking this purpose, we uses the membership operator. And how we can check that thing? By using the given syntax, where we have to write print, then just click on give an invited comma. Just type the letter that you want to check. For example, I am using A, and then just type in, and then we have to type the character variable where the string was stored. In our case, that is ch, and just save. Press Ctrl S and just run this thing. Just writing this thing, and you can see it was prompting false, and it was totally correct as because A is not present in the word Python. So this is how membership operator works in case of Python, or you can more specifically in case of string manipulation. And with that, I am just wrapping up this live session with you. The next part I will be continuing with this Python basics live from the next day, and we will be exploring many more features, many more functions, and many more statements with you. So I hope you have enjoyed this interactive session with me. I am Samir, your host, and for now I am just taking a break from you. Thank you for listening to this live, and yes, if you liked the session, then I will request you to leave a comment if you want more improvement or any of the suggestion. I will be very much eager to see all the comments. Hit a like button and share this video with all of your friends and families who are very much interested or passionate about Python. And please subscribe the channel for more interesting and interactive content in future. For now,